I think when there are a lot of things that are going around you, right? I think focus is very important. And I think it doesn't matter what business you're in. Um, Ultimately, at the end of the day, all businesses are in the space of creating value for their stakeholders. And the stakeholders also are the same set, right? They're investors or shareholders, they're your customers, your partners, your suppliers, your employees. And in the world we live in today, for a few decades now, the communities and the country that you're a part of is also a stakeholder. So I think, and how you create value for them, and in that process create value for the business. That's what this game is all about, right? Irrespective of the sector you're in. So when a disruption happens or a crisis happens, you go back to looking at whether your value to all of your stakeholders is still standing. And sometimes there will be pools of value where, your importance and your relevance is much higher. And there'll be some when a disruption happens, your stakeholders don't value anymore. So getting a very quick understanding of this, I think, is focusing on this perhaps is the first order of the day. Can you figure it all by yourself? Probably no. What are the things you should, as business leaders and for leaders in, not just us, but all of the leaders in our business, we ask them to do is stay very close to your stakeholders and have advisors. I think somebody on the previous panel was talking about advisor communities as well. One will hope that when you get to a crisis or get to a disruption, you know who to call in these 3, 4, 5 sets of stakeholders that you have, and they'll tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. And they are also invested in the success of your business and maybe in you as a professional and a leader as well. So that's the triangulation you have to keep doing all the time. Then you bring this all back internally, and there's this 2 words that we keep talking about, which are very difficult to do: agility and resilience. Building that into the core DNA of the company. Maybe in this audience it's easy said than done. Maybe in some of our companies it's a lot more difficult to do, because we have structures and processes which have existed for decades, how things should be done, what should not be done, how you'll be measured, how you'll be rewarded, how you'll be recognized, how you'll be compensated. This is all set in stone. So perhaps for this room, it's not a big problem, but for bigger companies, established businesses like ours, and all of you will reach that stage in some stage as your business grows. To match both of these is actually the game. So you need structure. Okay, don't walk away from this room thinking you don't need structure. You need structures, you need processes, you need policies that work, but how to keep them agile and resilient is something that you have to keep watching. And the last thing is you don't have time. So it's pretty much you have to, keep this cooking all the time. Something gets burnt, you have to put another pan on the stove and start all over again. So this invent and reinvent is going on also as you're doing all of this triangulation, listening, coming back, looking at your business model, your operating model, your talent strategy, your offers and services. So in a nutshell, it's very interesting. If you don't know how to fix something, go ask all the people you know, do you have an idea about how to fix this? And what should we do together? Because we are all in partnership and we're all part of this ecosystem, and we all need to survive this and learn how to thrive and look for opportunities in this disruption to then thrive. So it's communication is key, both internally and externally, Keshav. And through a process, some things you figure out for yourself, some things you figure out because your customers tell you, don't do this, do this. Your partners tell you, we can't do this, we can do this. So it's a process of learning by listening very intently. Don't pretend we have all the answers, and be prepared to fail fast, and it's okay to fail. I think as leaders, you have to allow people to say, nobody has all the answers, make some attempts. It's okay if we fall flat on our face, we'll pick up and move on. I think giving confidence to your people is a big part of leadership during times of crisis.
Now you have these 40 under 40 or many of them. If you go back to the roots, only thing they have is intent, vision, and hustle, right? So in that context, what is in their benefit is this chaos. Chaos, change gives rise to new set of companies. So anytime there is a change in the market conditions, structures, or how the money flows, guess what? New set of entrepreneurs come. That's the reason we exist. Now, once the public market took a hit, war and all the things you said, it is again what? Chaos, confusion. Who gets the benefit? Again, these entrepreneurs, because they will go back to structure and process, and priorities change. But this is, by the time they finish planning, they would have already taken the market. I am very optimistic where we are sitting, because most of the companies in India are well funded, capitalized for at least next 2 years. In case this chaos and supply of capital is a challenge beyond 2 years, then we have a serious problem. But if this gets resolved in the next, say, 3-4 quarters, we are excited about it. So the first thing we did during COVID and now is survive. If you can't survive, forget about anything else. So which means at least 2 years of runway. So everybody has raised in 2021. Most of the people have raised. Most of the people here have raised. So that is enough money on the balance sheet. The second one is be opportunistic. Find for opportunities where you see, because being flexible is very key. That's part of the entrepreneurship. You have to go back to the roots and see where the margins are coming, where the growth is possible, where with unit economics you get the market share. Because the game we are playing is not for the next 1 or 2 years. These all have to build potentially a very large, durable, IPOable company. In order to do that, guess what? Everybody has to show a great unit economics and profitability. Everybody understands. So the trick is take the opportunity, being flexible, and take this to your advantage.
It was very clear there will be a time during the crisis and there will be time after the crisis. So keeping an eye on after the crisis helped us keep that positivity. That's how we engaged with the team. That's how we engaged with the stakeholders, for that matter. Made sure the communication was very, very regular, sometimes too much. But I think what it taught us was that there's nothing called too much communication or too much information. Because I think that's what gave people the confidence that we'll come out of it strong. And I think we as BMW worldwide and locally as well have proven that we've come out of it really strong.
Today, the biggest thing that we look at as leaders is how do I secure my next 2 quarters? What is going to change in the next 2 quarters? Because nobody knows what's going to happen. All organizations are data hungry, so they have a lot of data. But data is data. But what to do with it, how you forecast the future, nobody knows. So somewhere as leaders, you've just got to have an idea of how the consumers are going to move, have conviction, have belief in your ideas, and just move ahead. And that's how we are planning. So for us, long term is 1 to 2 years. Short term is next 2 quarters. So that's the way we are working on today, because the situation is so turbulent, is so completely changing almost every month, right? So dollar prices keep changing, fuel prices keep changing. You have a certain price points. All price points are shackled. Suddenly, when you increase prices, sales come down. When you drop prices, margins come down. So it's a world which is very, very amorphous. You got to be on your toes. There is no, 1 or 2 things you do. So to answer your question, the way we are trying to deal with it is try to think of 10, 20 things. 7, 8 will work. 2, 3 will fail. It's okay. Just move on. So that's the way we are approaching this problem at this point in time.
I think in our industry, it's much easier to be, given the margin profiles are a lot stronger, it's easier to have very strong unit economics, but the ability to manage cash is important, right? So I think as a team, as a leadership team, I think the fundamental thing that we have come down to agreeing is that we have to ensure that we have to maximize sourcing of capital for our requirements in the following order. One is revenue. So revenue is ideally revenue should fund everything in the future, and that's how you build a healthy business. If revenue is falling short, then you kick yourself and then you raise debt, right? You find a way, and right now the market is great for debt. You're able to get fundamentally good deals. Of course, there are macro factors involved, etc. But you're able to at least things like working capital, which involve inventory, receivables, etc. In a fast churn business, you can leverage the business fairly well. In absence of these two, if you need more capital after this, then you look at equity.